Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And just as we are all arriving and settling in, go ahead and take a moment and close your eyes if that's comfortable or available for you, and center in as we listen to our dear friend Ben Fullerton give us a couple minutes of a sound invocation, and then we'll resume. So just allow that to help you arrive. Take it away. Thank you, Ben.
Okay, thank you, Ben. So first of all, I just want to welcome everyone for joining us today. It's really exciting just seeing a lot of the familiar faces. And just really quickly, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Tzadik. And
I'm Rachel.
We're going to be the co-hosts for today. And really quickly, just wanted to kind of go over a quick overview of what we're doing today so everyone's on the same page. And we're going to go ahead and pull up on our screen so you can all see that. And in short, here we go. Is it? Hold on one second while we load. You want to do that first?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So first, go for it.
Yeah. So we're going to be doing a lot of this is going to be a presentation. Thank you again so much for joining us on without necessarily knowing it was going to be, but we're also going to have some interactive stuff. So one thing I wanted to teach everyone right at the start is just how to use your Zoom chat. And so if you're on a desktop computer, it'll look like this. It's right at the bottom. If you're on a phone, you click participants and then click chats down there. And go ahead right now and just as a trial in the chat box, tell us where you're joining us from so that we all know how to make sure that that's working. You can find them. And also it's really cool to know we've got people from definitely all over the country and even some from out of the country. I believe we're able to make it. So yeah, that's just practice. No, we'll be using the chat boxes a little more later. So get yourself familiar with them now. And Jeremy, your tech host, you may be able to see down here when you click chat, it lets you choose who to chat to. And you can privately chat to somebody. He, if you're having any technical issues, is your guy. He's in all caps. So you should be able to scroll and easily find him. So just some technical stuff. Back to you.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. And so here's our event schedule for today. Quickly, this piece is we're just going to give you a broad overview of what we're up to today. In essence, it's an amalgamation of three separate things. we're going to be doing an inaugural ceremony for the Integrative Spiritual Society. We're going to have our first official meeting where we're taking notes, and that's the formal process of organizing as an entity. And the third is sharing with each of you a little bit of what this is, so the rest of you are not in the dark. So if we were to be doing it just in our closed circle, we would only be doing the first two. But to make sure that our community here that has joined us today, that you're all sort of tapped in and connected and with us, we're going to do a sharing aspect to this as well. So after this, I'm just going to do a quick meditation, bringing us all together, some check-ins where we're going to go out into a breakout rooms to meet each other. We're going to share a bit of how we got here today and what this is all about. We're then going to do that official ceremony process and then move on to our next steps as items of business. And with that, we're going to do a little bit of sharing, so it's not boring and dry as a basic meeting, but also sharing with you what's going on. And then we're going to conclude with a service. So with that,
just a quick little piece of business, because this is a business meeting for us and we're taking official minutes here. Tomo's helping us with that. We just want to affirm that we have approved that agenda, the voting members here, and that Tomo's going to be taking notes, Jeremy's doing timekeeping, and Tzadik and I will be co-hosting. So with that.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and start and bring everyone into a space of unification and presence, and into a space of really connected, not only to ourselves and each other, but the entire universe. So with that, just inviting everyone to find themselves in a place of both ease and being alert. Whatever position that is. And beginning to connect to the feeling tones in your body as you come into that space of alert ease. Noticing these emotions, noticing the sensations that are in your body, and welcoming all of them with love, knowing that these are each a part of you and a part of the universal human experience. As you anchor into the unique weather that's in your own body, inviting the circle to expand. Imagining that each and every one of us was actually in the same room, sitting in a circle, able to see each and every one of us. And starting to allow that space of interconnectivity to flow amongst us all. And as we anchor in that space of collective unity, in common unity, community, we then invite the larger cosmos to join us as well. Feeling the earth beneath us and all the animals that we share this glorious planet with, really inviting them into this space. And from that place, allowing our attention to move upwards into the cosmos, into the expanse of infinite stars and galaxies, really inviting that place of infinite possibility to join us here today as well. Allowing that unification to be felt deeply, not only in your own body, but as a collective here gathered today. And from that space, as if by magic, integrating all of that into a unified whole, so we may gather our intention for our gathering today. And with that, let's begin.
Yeah. So we're actually going to start with a somewhat experimental activity. So please bear with us, because this is probably the most technically complicated piece of the programming today. But we're actually going to break out into groups of 3, and this Zoom lets us actually break into little rooms with groups to do a few check-in questions and kind of get to know a little of the people in the space. So quick thing, if you either know that it's not going to work for you to participate in this, you're somewhere where you can't actually talk right now, or you have more than one of you sitting in the room and it is not obvious from your video that that is the case, can you please put in the chat like a ×2 or time, there's 3 of us, for Jeremy to see that, or I can't participate. And just let him know, because he's kind of in the background making the rooms right now and he can mess around with that. Meanwhile, the point of this is just to get a little bit of human connection, so you can't do it wrong. And just so you know, experimenting with creating these communities, but virtually, is part of what the mission of this thing we're creating is all about. So here we are playing with it. So I'll tell you the questions in a moment, but here's just some logistics you're going to need to know about this. One, as I said, we're all on a learning curve with this technology, so let's all just be kind with ourselves if things don't go as planned. In a moment, when we go into the breakout rooms, you'll automatically get put into a room, but you're going to need to click a button to say, yes, I want to join the room. It's pretty obvious. It pops up big, whether you're on a phone or on your computer. And then also at the end, you're going to need to click a button that says, yes, bring me back. Otherwise, it'll do this countdown thing for a whole minute and you'll miss a whole minute of things. Also, we're going to be using the chat to tell you like when to switch partners. So just keep your eye out. Those messages will flash up on your screen. And your whole group will see them, but just keep your eye out for that. Like I said, we're going to be breaking into groups of 3. If your group has 3 people, go ahead and get started. If your group has 2 people, get started, but know you might have someone joining you. And if you end up somehow by yourself, hold tight. We will notice that and be moving you around. So yeah, and so we're also going to send the questions in the chat. So you don't necessarily have to memorize them. They're fairly simple, and we're going to chat them here. Actually, Jeremy, do you have those that you can chat right this second? They're in the cue sheet. Anyway, so the 3 questions we're going to have each person answer, and you're going to get 90 seconds, so it's not a lot of time. But I'm here today because, so brief version, right now I'm feeling, and what brings me alive. So I'll repeat those. And yeah, what brought you here, how you're feeling, and what brings you alive.
And how much time does everyone have?
And everyone's going to get 90 seconds. So, not a ton of time, but just to get to know each other a little bit. So Jeremy, are we ready to go try the dispersing thing? I see it.
Almost give me just 1 second. Just
okay.
Assignment in.
And then we'll come back together and continue on. So thank you for being part of this experiment with us. Worst case, we'll be back in about 5 minutes all together here. So, and if you're not joining a room, you'll just be here in this main room. So feel free to mingle or hang out or do what you need. So you ready, Jeremy?
Nearly.
Okay. So again, reminders, you need to push the button to get in. You'll need to push the button again to get out. You won't, it'll appear at the right moment. We'll be controlling that from our Wizard of Oz seats. And keep your eye on the chat for when it's time to switch. And those questions are, I'm here today, right now I'm feeling, and what brings me alive is, And if it turns out we're way too ambitious and you can't answer all 3 questions in that time, pick the one that feels most alive to you and tell your folks that. So.
Okay, there might be some that have 2 in them, that just the way the numbers worked out.
Right.
FYI. But I
And
think
you get more time.
Yep.
To get
So
to
if you end up with 2, you just get more. All right, there you go.
All right, on your marks, get set, go. Woohoo!
Okay, so I hope there were not too many technical difficulties with all of that.
We only have 15.
Okay.
17, 18, 19. Here, everyone is returning. Hopefully that kind of worked.
I'm wondering if there's a way. Okay. We're just going to wait as everyone kind of filters back into the space.
You could start sharing the screen.
Okay.
And get to the right.
2 rooms are being stubborn right now.
Well, they only get a minute at the longest.
Yeah, so they have 15 seconds left to finish.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put my screen up. You want to tell me when we're ready?
I think we're pretty. You got 29 at this point. It was like 32 total. So
okay.
I'd say go for it.
Great. Okay. So we're going to go into a little bit of a storyline as to how we got here today and a little bit of what it is that we're doing. So just so everyone's on the same page, you have a sense of what's brought us to this moment and what exactly we're doing. So about 14 years ago, I founded an organization called Planet Coexist. And it began, in short, with the question of how do we create a world of peace? The way that we ended up mapping this, to answer this question was, well, what do we define peace as? And while this might be something that for a lot of us today seems totally clear and type thing, back then, 15 years ago, this was actually a radical concept. The notion that world peace was not just about nations getting along with one another or religions getting along with one another, that it was actually about how do we create health and wellness within ourselves, within our social relations, with the entire planet, and then the integration of all of those 3. At that time, that was actually a pretty radical notion. And so that's how we began. We started mapping out what we envisioned a world of peace to look like, and we call that integrative planetary wellness. As time went on, after a year's worth of events, that eventually brought us to the question, or to a really amazing concept that's now part of the core of what we focus on within our organization, is a quote from Howard Thurman, which says, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you alive and go do it, because what the world needs is people who have come alive. So at that point, we actually started asking these 2 questions. How do we create a world of peace, and what brings you alive? So as you can see, we sort of started bringing this lens to these 4 arenas. So what brings you alive might be very different than what brings me alive. What brings me alive in social connections or in my community might be very different than what brings you alive in community. What brings you alive in your connection to the earth? Some people are more drawn to the ocean. Some people are drawn more to deserts. So each of those are unique. And the way in which we integrate that is also unique. So we started really applying this lens into what it took to create a global culture of peace. So with that understanding, back in 2011, Planet Coexist founded what was then a project where we rented a baseball stadium for 3 days, a professional stadium, and created a 200-foot diameter labyrinth in the outfield of the baseball stadium. We had earth flags and peace flags, human rights flags, flags from nations from all over the world throughout the entire stadium. The labyrinth itself was decorated with 1,000+ images of earth and culture, painting the picture of integrative planetary wellness, with as well 1,000+ quotes helping people to deepen in to the spiritual conceptions of all of what that means. Now, what made this really unique and the way that we dovetailed those two questions was before people walked into that labyrinth, we had a ceremony where we invited people to get in touch with what mattered most to them. So at a lot of events out there, whether that's a cancer walk or a diabetes walk or what have you, everyone is walking for the same intention. Well, what we tried to do here is while we were all walking the labyrinth together, which by the way is a 2.5-mile walk, if you, sort of like an intestines, it packs a lot into a very small space. Instead of having everyone walk for the same thing, we asked people to walk for what mattered most to them. So we really brought them through a meditation journey. And so as people walked through that labyrinth, they were walking their own heart song and inviting that heart song to be contributed to the collective earth walk. And so on that solstice for the Northern Hemisphere summer and the Southern Hemisphere winter, we launched Earth Walk with a Global Unity Moment. And we actually had 7 satellite cities in 4 continents around the world. The event itself made a huge international splash. The images from the event went viral, and to the extent where I was actually asked to join the Transformational Leadership Council with people like Deepak Chopra, Lynn McTaggart, Jack Canfield. It was that successful and groundbreaking. And we were ready to move forward, jump ahead, full steam ahead. Well, as the universe has it, the next month, my sister was diagnosed with cancer. And for the next 22 months, instead of growing the organization and moving it beyond all of that amazing energy that was created, I made a decision to really be available for my sister and my family. And so we actually chose to scale down in this time when we had all this energy and force behind us. So as fate would have it, during that time, which was very difficult, it also ended up birthing some of the most amazing insights. I had a time to really deeply reflect on all the work that we had done so far. And I'm going to go ahead and share with you what resulted from that. The first thing was that we realized that we were asking the wrong question. It's not about creating a world of peace. In that model, peace is static. We're approaching it from this concept of reaching an end goal. And what I got really clear on is peace is not an end goal. We're not going to get to any particular utopia. It's not a static concept that is a fairy tale. And so we then ended up really resting in this notion that peace is a practice. It's a practice whether nations are unified or apart, whether religions are cooperating or not, whether we're getting along with our neighbor or not. It's a practice that never ends. So we stopped trying to create a world of peace and instead starting to ask the question, how do we create a global culture of peace? Pretty much a culture that focuses on peace as a practice as opposed to an end goal. The second thing was I realized we needed a map. And the reason being is if what brings you alive as your pathway to peace is different than what brings me alive and everyone else on this call to their pathway of peace, how do we weave all of us together in a tapestry of coherency? Like, how do we actually do that? And when your path seems to be conflicting with my path, how do we navigate all of that? So it became really clear we needed to map that out because it's rather complex. And of course, like, as you can see the theme here, it brought us to more questions. And in short, it was, how do we orient universally? So on the left hand, while honoring each and everyone's unique diversity. And if we are truly unique, then what do we have in common? And from that framework, so like if we then agree that maybe there are things that bring us all together in a common fashion, how do we unite the people of the world with that common thread in a way that's peaceful? And I say that because there are many nations and leaders who have attempted to unify the world in a way that wasn't so peaceful, through their vision, through their approach, as opposed to how do we gather and unify collectively. So we started mapping. And in short, when we looked at reality and what is the terrain that we had to map out, what we found was that there was time, space, intention, and dimension. So in those 4 realms, we then created a map. And this is what we call the compass. It's a universal map of deciphering basically the DNA of existence from our lens. Of course, it's not a universal, it's from our lens. It's how we're seeing it. And so gathering spiritual traditions and basically looking all over the world, this is the 2nd edition. There's a 3rd edition that's actually in the making right now. We did our best to map that terrain. Not going to go into it now. It's a whole long conversation, but we'll speak to a little bit of this later on as we continue. Oh. And the short essence is that this map actually, as a result, became the bedrock for how we envisioned this global culture of peace. The short reason is, like, with this compass, we are able to teach that universal language, what united us, teaching the seasons, the cycles, the elements, the directions, beyond like our celebratory differences. And this, in short, gave us a framework to unite and to create a system of like harmony and balance. Quick leap ahead, we spent the next few years figuring out how to take that map of the universe, if you will, to then figure out, well, how do we then apply that to creating a global culture of peace? And again, I'm not going to go into this at all, but this dives into the realm of education, commerce, economics, personal development, media. Even goes into the realms of how we create a peaceful military system that is truly defending the earth and all its creatures. And as we devised that and sort of came to a place where we felt complete, we realized really quickly that the global platform was way bigger than anything that we or any one organization or hundreds of organizations for that matter could do. And that we couldn't do that alone, that it takes a global village to create a world of peace. From that point, we realized that if all of our attention, so we were excited, like, okay, great, cool, like we have this vision, but we also realized that if all of our attention was focused on this global platform, this conception, this vision for peace, we also got clear that we would be playing the same game that we didn't want to be playing, which is trying to reach out for a particular product or an end goal. And so if I were to put a quick concept of polarities in here, what I would say is that energetic is the masculine. And so we wanted to bring in the feminine, a place that is eternal, that's not based on an end goal, but actually like, what are the things we can always do, regardless of where we are on the trajectory of creation? And so we ended up, through that, officially creating the 3 main arenas of Earthwalk. We have, as an organization, a team committed to help creating that global culture of peace, but more importantly, resting in a community that's focused on how do we create that global culture, regardless of the end goal. So as you can see, there's the feminine element, the masculine element, and then the neutral element here in the center. And really quickly, to sort of end that conception, a quote that kind of encapsulates this is from the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu, which says, if you know the masculine, know the masculine, but keep to the feminine, and become a watershed to the world. And basically the notion being is that in order to really truly live our mission and vision of creating a global culture of peace, we had to rest in the feminine. We had to rest in community and make that the most important thing. Before any product, before any workshop, before any global platform, that we had to rest in the importance of you, of me, and the love that goes in between us, regardless of the form. And so with that recognition, we then returned to our question of how do we create a global culture of peace? And in short, we answer that by saying we develop a global culture of peace practitioners. In short, what we mean by that, it's simply creating an environment where we're teaching what peace looks like, what are the practices that are an expression of that culture, and an active community where we come together to practice that. And that's where we created Tribe 333. Again, do not have time to go into that at all, but you can always go to our website and take a look a little deeper into what that is. And just as a quick explanation of why we chose the name Tribe 33 as opposed to Tribe 4 or Tribe 3 is because the notion is that the first three, personal, social, and environmental, the places of teaching people how to connect, were all intertwined by the integral. So it basically just teaches the concept that as we connect with each of those three, it's important to weave together all of those in order to create integrative planetary citizens. And the last question, which sort of brings us up to date with where we are now, is how do we actually create that community that's separate from the organization and separate from the platform, that actually makes our personal and collective development more important than the organization and any program we create. And that's where we decided to form the Earthwalk Integrative Spiritual Society as a vehicle to support the community beyond the organization. So with that, just going to transition with a deep breath just by saying, just so everyone knows like what we mean by spiritual. Sort of drop all the conceptions of what is out there around spirituality. For us, spirituality means anything that brings the spirit alive. So in you, in me, and us, what brings about joy? What brings about love? For us, that is spiritual. So by that definition, an integrative spiritual society is a society that supports people and the communities they are a part of to bring their spirits alive in an integrative, holistic way. So without ado, that was a lot. We sat a week ago after we decided to invite everyone to join us for this occasion. We're like, how do we bring everyone up to speed? How do we integrate and try to bring everyone onto the same page? So I know that was a lot of information.
Yeah. But so we're going to actually go ahead and the original purpose of today's meeting is to actually like literally do the paperwork. Less boring than that sounds, but the ceremony stuff of actually creating this organization. And to be clear, the type of organization we're creating is a religious organization. We're taking the constitutional rights afforded to spiritual societies in the U.S. To operate separately from the government, and we're creating an unincorporated organization that will do that. And we'll get in a little more to actually like what we're going to look like in practice. But in terms of like the documents, that's what we're creating. We're making this church essentially that allows us to take advantage of that. So, and so the mission of this church is to support this global community of peace tenders as part of this integrative spiritual society, basically teaching peace practices, using this map, using this compass to teach what it means to live in harmony with the world without necessarily needing to believe in any particular thing. So I'm going to hand this over to Tomo, who's who's one of our team members, and he's going to master of ceremonies, Tzadik and I, through the kind of official signing creation portion of this, and then we'll get back to explaining a little more about the future of the Integrative Spiritual Society. So Tomo, you ready? Oh, there you are.
They are.
All right. So do all voting members approve of the mission and vision as laid forth herein?
Aye.
I do.
Wonderful. And do all voting members approve of the tenets, creed, and principles spelled out in the founding documents?
I do.
Yes.
And I understand that both of you will take your vows as advisors for this integrative spiritual society. Rachel, are you ready to make your vow using a symbolic gesture of your choosing?
Yes. Okay. This is the moment, folks. I'm gonna put both hands on my heart because that's where it all starts from. In alignment with the tenets, creeds, and principles of the Earthwalk Integrative Spiritual Society, and as a steward thereof, with all of you as my witnesses, I vow to dedicate my life to the practice of peace, including the ongoing discovery of what that means. I vow to continually and consciously deepen my relationship with the infinite wisdom and loving presence of the cosmos, the universe, the great mystery, the divine, and to support others to do the same as they are ready. And I vow to practice surrendering to and embodying wholeness and love for the benefit of all beings from this day forth and for the rest of my life. May it be so.
May it be so. With everyone here as witnesses, may it be so. Tzadik, are you ready to make your vow using a symbolic gesture of your choosing?
Part of me wants to go, sure. Yes, I'm ready.
Please begin.
In alignment with the tenets, creed, and principles of Earthwalk Integrative Spiritual Society, and a steward thereof, with all of you here as my witnesses, I vow to dedicate my life to the practice of peace, including the ongoing discovery of what that means. I vow to continually and consciously deepen my relationship with the infinite wisdom and loving presence of the cosmos, the universe, great mystery, the divine, and to support others to do the same as they are ready. I vow to practice surrendering to and embodying wholeness and love for the benefit of all beings from this day forth and for the rest of my life. May it be so.
With everyone here as a witness, may it be so. Thank you both. Thank you both for your vow.
Just as a quick,
So,
Rachel just handed this to me, but these are our official certificates, just to kind of share. Tomo will be signing them later as our official witness.
an honor. And we're now going to be signing these documents. Rachel, Tzadik, I now invite you to both to sign and thereby adopt the official spiritual society formation documents. With all those interested in signing this document as official witnesses, please write witness in the chat box. And that is to all of you. If you would like to witness, please do write witness in the chat box. And
So what that means.
Thank you all.
Yeah, so in our official documents, if you want your name to be a part of this process, just go ahead and write your name or write witness in the chat, and we will go ahead and add and send this document for your signature later on. And
I'm going to attempt to do the signing cam. And we'll be sending these to Tomo to sign as well as the scribe. There's more pages. These are just, that's
This is for the witnesses, all of you. I think with that, we are complete with the signing portion.
So, as scribe and witness to today's ceremony, I, Tomo Albanese, hereby declare that the Earthwalk Integrative Spiritual Society is officially formed. May this be a gift for generations to come, and not just any gift, but the sort of gift you wouldn't mind actually getting back. So, thank you, and may it be so.
Yay. Okay, so are you sharing your screen yet?
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and share screen.
Okay. So now that we have actually officially, it's crazy that signing pieces of paper makes the world move. But that we have officially created a thing. Now, as sort of part of the business meeting, part of the communicating to y'all, we're going to talk about what our next steps are here. And so number one is opening a bank account. We've researched First United Bank as one that has some conscious practices. It's in Texas. I'll be in Texas in a week. So we're going to get our account open there. All voting members approving that plan.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. It's been a long time coming. Two, the first few phases of our program launch strategy and basically actually doing things in the world. So going to lay those out for approval and for all of y'all to hear about. Phase one is going to be peace practice programs in a kind of a more, what was the word I was using?
Intermittent.
Thank you. Intermittent fashion. So basically these are teaching and holding space to practice these practices that lead towards wholeness. And what that means is we have a map here, surprise, surprise, based on the compass about peace practices. You can kind of enter it at any point, but just to give a sense, the earth practices are a great place to start. That's basically things that really help arrive in grounding and presence. So meditation, eye gazing, for example. From there, you can move into water practices, which are about conversation and inquiry, asking questions and listening. So a lot of authentic relating practices might fall into that category if you've heard of those. A lot of emotion and energy can arise in either of those two. So we move into fire, which is about expression, about moving. So there's ecstatic sound or ecstatic dance, or even lots of yoga practices would count there. And then the fourth element of this map of the different types of peace practices and the map itself we want to teach is air, which is exactly what I'm doing right now, and that we've done a lot of here, which is kind of explaining the intellectual framework of these pieces. So with that as our map, we intend to start both virtual and in-person events that Tzadik and I will be teaching and leading as we travel, and also that our plan is to include members of our team and community to help us hold, who have expertise or interest in any of those spaces to help us teach in their communities and online. The first couple in-person events are actually happening this week in Jemez Springs, New Mexico, a little town outside of Albuquerque where we are based at the moment. And we're doing a workshop and a dance this week. And then phase two is, once we got that kind of kinks worked out there, is to start hosting regular services for global unity moments, which are essentially our version of the high holidays. And there's two kinds. There's these lunar global unity moments. One of them happens to be today. It is no coincidence that we chose to have this beginning ceremony on the new moon. The other lunar type of holiday that we intend to honor is the full moon. And so twice a month, we'll have chances to hold regular services honoring, what comes with the full moon, what comes with the new moon. We also intend to have global unity moment ceremonies related to the solar holidays. So solstices, equinoxes, and the cross quarter days, which are those days halfway between the solstice and the equinox. And as you may notice, these are things we all share on the whole planet, no matter what you believe. These happen. And so they're a great time to really use the things happening around us to ground into the different parts of the map and the different parts of things that create wholeness. And together, there's 33. There's those 8 solar days, and then the lunar new and full moons. these global unity moments that help us weave together and the teachings and kind of will be the stake in the ground for the spiritual society. And we hope to have these started by the December solstice. Exactly what the services look like could vary a lot. Some could be huge, like the event Tzadik through. Some could be online, an hour-long online meditation. And then phase 3 will be initiating soul walk programming. This we don't have a timeline for, but it's essentially the programs that will tie together different global unity moments. So instead of just a full moon and then a new moon, it's maybe a 4-week program that helps you really look at the whole cycle and how expansion and contraction work in your life. Quarterly classes, year-long classes, basically these ways of using this system to help learn how to practice peace. Some of these programs we intend to have be free and open to the community, just like a church service would be. Some might be deeper dives that will, and we are looking for hopefully sponsors for those. Some of these will be deeper dives to, that will be paid workshops. And those are kind of the 3 phases that we have laid out right now. So do we approve those? Okay,
Yes.
And then on to you.
Okay, and then the last piece that we had as far as where we're planning on moving next with our meetings is recruitment and team building. And really quickly, I'm not going to go into this. We've created a plan. We're mostly doing this for the purpose of the fact that this is also our meeting, beyond just inviting you to be witnesses as a part of this. So within that strategic plan, we've designated 6 spheres of influence: stewards, advisors, trustees, partners, team members, and community. And without going into detail, this is sort of the holistic framework that allows for all of those to intertwine in a way where everyone has a vote and a voice that really serves this global mission, with advisors connected to every single level of being, and where the trustees, not just people who are giving a financial contribution, but the way that we define a resource is that people could be giving time, they could be giving their energy and love, they could be giving their attention. And no matter whether someone is giving an hour of time as a volunteer for an event or giving a major financial contribution, they're all welcome as equals into a council of trustees. And then the last piece just within that framework is having a council of partners. Again, we have mentioned that we can't do this alone. It takes a global village to create a global culture of peace. So we want within our framework a mechanism with everyone who we choose to partner with, that they have a way to really deeply communicate with us feedback and vision. And then the last of those spheres is community, that we spoke about as far as Tribe 3.3. It's really where we have people who aren't choosing to get involved in any level other than their own personal practice, that they have a mechanism and means to communicate with us and help to really improve this global platform as well. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move into acknowledgements, just so speaking about our community and so forth. And the first person that I want to thank as we end today is Eric Lawyer. Are you there with us, Eric? Eric is officially our first member of the Council of Advisors. He spent many, many hours with us, working with us in devising the, 35-page document that lays out all the contours of what this integrated spiritual society will look like, the governing structure, everything, you name it, and advised us on how to do so, and has offered himself as a continual advisor. So with so much respect and love, Eric, just want to thank you for all the love and attention that you've given us and the brothership. So
you're welcome, and thank you, Tzadik. And it's fun to see how you guys have taken it and run with it. So
thank you. The second people that we really want to acknowledge are my parents, Bruce and Elaine Greenberg. They have been the strongest. I don't even want to say one of the most supportive. They have been the most supportive of anyone in this process of creating all of what we described today on all levels. And again, with just deep love and appreciation, Mom, Dad, Bruce, Elaine, thank you. May our work be the way in which we pay that back. And Jack, Jaffe, He's been one of the more recent major supports and contributors to Earthwalk. So just a quick shout out to you. Are you with us, Jack?
Yes.
He's been a friend, a family member on the energetic level. And I just want to say thank you. We couldn't have done this without you. So, yeah.
Good, because I love you guys. Even when you're an asshole.
Somebody turn his mic off.
I know, right? And Sage, are you with us? I know that you contacted us this morning saying that you were laid out flat in bed. Are you?
Yes, I'm here. I'm still laid out flat in bed, but I'm here.
Awesome. Again, love you. Just so everyone knows, Sage was actually a part of the team before Earthwalk became its own entity. He was on the first ever global council to establish Earthwalk, and 8 years ago, and he was actually a critical voice in developing the Compass project and just the mythology of this entire organization. So again, with deep love, Sage, love you and thank you for being here, even laying down in bed.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
And then last but not least, Tomo Albanese was also a major part of this entire process, has been on the Earthwalk Global Council for the last 3 years, I believe, and is the scribe for today's event. And with deep love. And also Jeremy, who's our tech support for this meeting. As I mentioned earlier today before this call, the way that you've shown up for us has just been really amazing. Thank you for being a part of our family. And with that, we're going to go ahead and do our concluding service. So if everyone could go ahead and take a seat and just get yourself into a comfortable place, really allow all that mental stuff that we just went through in the and some of the cognitive details, and sort of shake that off. And what we're going to do is share. So we shared some of the global unity moments along the lunar cycle and the solar cycle. Well, this is a global unity moment that we're going to invite people around the world to do every single day. So in lieu of the concept that we described, the 333, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. And we're going to go through those 4 terrains, starting with the personal. And this is the meditation that we're going to invite everyone to do at 3:33 p.m., wherever they happen to be. So connecting in with your body and your heart, noticing the sensations and the emotions that are there, the thoughts that are there. Just really tuning in with love, knowing that this is an integral part of the collective process to peace. And with deep reverence and deep love, sending that compassion and energy to all those spaces within. And as you move beyond that which you identify as self, moving into the place of the social, and inviting images of people who you have connection with, whether they feel pleasurable in your system or if there's resistance, really just allowing it all to show up. Who are the people that you are in close connection with? And simply notice, without judgment, the emotions and sensations that arise as these different community members that you are a part of show up in your mind. Sending both yourself and them love with all that's there. And then from there, moving into the 3rd realm of the environment. And beginning to notice the places that you feel connected with this beautiful earth. Whether it's different animals or just different elements, earth, air, fire, water. Just allow for your soul to connect to what brings you alive in this terrain. Knowing that the earth is integral to creating a global culture of peace, Humans as a species alone cannot do that. We are just one of infinite species on this planet. And with the last part, that 4-part breath, inviting that space of integration, the love, the great mystery, all that is, that somehow magically intertwines those three into this magical whole that goes beyond unity and duality into just an integrative isness. And with that,
All right, thank you everybody, like so incredibly deeply much for taking your time today to be here with us as we launch this thing. Your presence means the world to us. And as we mentioned, Tzadik didn't really have time to explain too much about Tribe 333 or kind of how that plays a role in this society, but it's essentially the name that we have for our community of people who are, committed to being a part of this, this practice of peace all together. And we'd love for everyone who is here today to, we want to extend the invitation to become a part of that in a more official way. Some of you already are, but for the rest of you who aren't, if, we'd love to kind of include you indefinitely at the moment as a kind of beta tester for us in the same way you've been here right at the beginning here. Eventually we're having this be a paid membership every month as a donation to help grow this. But for now, we just would love to have you there to help us. And so if you're interested, or wanting to just keep track and know more, go ahead and throw your email address in the chat box. Go ahead.
Well, and I also say not only to help us but to be a part, to really build that essence of community aside from platform.
Yeah. So we're just, collecting those now. If you feel called, you can always get in touch with either of us later too, if it moves you. At the moment, that's mainly taking the form of a Facebook group. So that's a way everyone who is here can kind of be in touch later. If I know some of you aren't on Facebook too, it won't eventually just be that, but your email will help us get there too. So I think that's it.
Yeah. After Ben goes ahead and concludes us with a sound conclusion, we're gonna stay behind afterwards for any questions that people might have or just any form of connecting. So
right, it's our version of the mingle that we would be doing if this was an in-person event.
Yes. So again, we understand we set an hour, and thank you deeply. If anyone wants to say and has any questions, great. There's no pressure whatsoever, and we love you all. And
yeah, thank you for being here, and stay tuned.
Yeah, and Ben, if you want to kind of conclude us with some beautiful sound.
We're not in quite the order we had originally talked about, so I'm not sure. Hopefully he's ready. And if he's not, we can just chat. But we like hearing Ben make noise. Yay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and especially all of those of you who gave time yesterday for our tech rehearsal and all your time over the years, and for everyone who wanted to be here but couldn't be, sending you love as well.